Although, having said that, I feel like being afraid of being stabbed in the eye is a fairly reasonable fear. I don't think that that's an irrational one at all. We should all be afraid of being stabbed in the eye. Hey, makeup friends, and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my makeup inventory. That is not to say that this is a collection video, but this is really looking at the numbers of the items that I have in my collection and comparing it to where I was at the beginning of 2022, as well as the midpoint throughout the year. After we've taken a look at the numbers, I'm going to talk to you about my plans for 2023 in terms of my overall collection. Am I going to do a no buy? Am I going to do a low buy? If so, what are the rules? All of that good stuff. So we will get to that. But first, let's take a look at the makeup inventories. So I broke it down into 25 different categories, and I have it all written out here because there is no way I can remember this. So starting with the base products, for primers, at the beginning of 2022, I had 10 primers. June 30th, at the halfway check-in, I had 12. And I'm very happy to report that I now have 5. And I think that is totally manageable. I do like to have some variety and some options, but I don't need 10 to 12 different primers for that. So I'm good with 5. For foundations, I started off the year with 24. By the midway point, I had 25, and today I still have 25. And that is a number that is a little uncomfortable for me. That is a lot of foundation. Only 2 of them are powder foundation. So the majority of these items are basically ticking time bombs. They have a shelf life. They will expire. They will turn funky far faster than a powder will. So I really need to keep that in mind going into the new year when I'm considering purchasing new foundations. So my plan moving forward with foundations is to adopt a sort of informal one in, one out rule. I want to still be able to buy foundations because I do like to test them out and to review them, but I don't want to amass them. So if I'm purchasing a new foundation, it's time for me to take a look at the other 25 that I have and determine if there is one in there that I can part ways with. And I suspect that that's not going to be overly challenging for me to maintain. So we shall see where the numbers bear out in another 6 months' time, but that's my plan at least. Moving on to concealers, at the beginning of 2022, I had 22 concealers. By June 30th, I had 29. And then I did a ruthless declutter of them, and I now have 14. That's still a lot, I understand, but concealer is like that product that I just can't get enough of. It is my desert island product. I do not feel comfortable without wearing concealer. That's just the truth of the matter. It is what it is. Even if it's the only product that I apply when I'm leaving my house, so be it. It's my security blanket, and I love concealer. So 14 for me is a manageable number, but now I feel like I can rotate through them and I can get use out of all of them. Whereas when I had 22 and 29, it was overwhelming. They didn't fit in the container. They were flowing out everywhere, and it just was stressful to me just to look at them. So I feel good with 14. I don't feel like I'm at risk of just buying every concealer that hits the market. It has to be full coverage. If it claims anything other than full coverage, I am not interested in it. So I feel like I'm not at much risk with concealer, but again, the numbers will bear out in 6 months' time. Moving on to setting powders, I had 9 of those at the beginning of the year. I'd whittled it down to 8 by June, and I now have 6, and I am good with that number. I'm not interested in picking up any more at this time. There is one that I have my eye on for an under eye setting powder, but I am working on one from Laura Mercier right now. I don't feel like I need to have 2 of them in rotation, so I'm not going to pick up the Huda Beauty one until the Laura Mercier is done. For finishing powders, I had 6 at the beginning of the year, 6 halfway through, and I now have 5. And again, I'm good with that amount. I like having the variety, but I do not feel any urge to pick up any more to add to that collection, so I'm not concerned about those 2 categories. Moving on to cheek products, I did distinguish them between powder and cream. So for bronzer, powder bronzers, I had 9 at the beginning of the year, 11 halfway through, and today I have 5 because I did do a declutter. With cream bronzers, I had 3 at the beginning of the year, 5 halfway through, and I am back down to 3 again. Blush, however, is a very slippery slope. So at the beginning of the year, I had 20 powder blushes. By the midway point, I had 33 powder blushes, and then today I have 16, because again, I did do a very thorough declutter in the summer. For cream blushes, I had 17 at the beginning of the year, 23 halfway through, and now I have 21. So combined, I have close to 40 different blushes, and that's not even talking about anything contained in face palettes. So I'm not going to say that I'm not going to buy blush, but I have to really critically think about what it's bringing to my collection, because I do not need any more rosy blushes. I do not need any more peach toned blushes. I have those in spades. So it's going to have to be something unique, or a formula that I just can't resist testing out, frankly. I love blush. I really love blush. It's just so fun. So I don't want to put any like hard and fast rules around it, but I'm pretty much maxed out in my container. I don't necessarily want to have to get creative with my storage options and start moving stuff all over the place to make room for new purchases. So again, it's just something that I need to keep in mind as I'm moving into the new year. So rounding out the cheek category, we've got highlighters. At the beginning of the year, I had 22 powder highlighters. By June 30th, I had 31. I will say that wasn't necessarily because I purchased a bunch, but I did receive quite a few in PR from Odin's Eye. And then I did a declutter subsequent to that, so today I have 17. For cream highlighters, I feel like I'm doing much better in that category. I had 2 at the beginning of the year, 4 halfway through, and I still have those same 4 now. So highlighters, I feel like I am getting better at recognizing what my type is. For example, the new Rare Beauty highlighters that were just recently released. There is a champagne color in there that I was drooling over, but I have a drawer full of champagne highlighters. I do not need any more, and even though it is a new formula and a new product, and it would be fun to test it out, I don't need another champagne highlighter because it's just going to basically dilute the collection and just make it that much harder for me to get use out of everything that I have. So then I had quickly mentioned face palettes. So this is again an area where I feel like I have regained control of it. So at the beginning of the year, I had 15. By June, I had 13, and today I have 7. So again, I had gone through and done a declutter of those back in, I believe it was August of this year, and I do not feel any temptation to repurchase them. Or perhaps I should say, yes, I do feel some temptation, but then I think about the fact that I just consistently declutter face palettes and I just don't really use them all that much. And it tends to change my mind about actually going ahead and purchasing a face palette because it's just a product that's going to sit in my drawers and not get much use. For brow products, I'm actually kind of surprised that I've managed to amass as many as I have. At the beginning of 2022, I had 11, halfway through, and today I am down to 8. I'm not particularly concerned with my brows. Like, they're fairly full as they are in their natural state. I need more control than I need filling in. So the fact that I still even have 8 brow products is a little insane to me because I don't need that many. I need like maybe 3 really good tinted brow gels just for variety's sake, just to avoid boredom. I don't need 8. Setting sprays. I am doing very well with setting sprays. I started the year off with 8. I had 4 by the halfway point, and today I have 3. 3 is totally fine. I'm not overwhelmed by it. They're easy to store. I don't tend to rotate through them. I just use one until it's done, and then I have the backup sitting there. So I feel good with my setting spray situation. And then we move into eyelid primers. So at the beginning of the year, I had 12. In June, I had 10, and today I also have 10. That's an excessive number, so I have been working on some, and in the last couple months I've really dedicated myself to the Lorac one that I have. I'd like to continue working on that one just to finish it up and get it out of my collection. I also have one from Sigma that's just not a great color for me, but I really do like its functionality as a primer, so that's another one that I want to focus on and use it up, possibly repurchase it with a shade that is more suited to my skin tone, but again, we've got quite a few to choose from. I don't feel the need to go out and immediately repurchase anything. So now we move into where the big numbers live, and that is eyeshadow. So for single eyeshadows, I started the year with 431 of them. Now, quick disclaimer, a lot of those also included depotted palettes and shadows from palettes where I didn't think that I would use the palette anymore, but there was a few shades that I really liked. I tend to do that and then it becomes like a makeup purgatory. So I'll depot these shadows from palettes, stick them in a magnetic case where they go to die. Like I basically just don't ever use them again, but I feel good in my soul that I haven't thrown them out, except then I do a declutter of the single shadows and eventually throw them out. So like what's the point? So anyways, I've learned this about myself. I did do a massive declutter, and by the halfway point of the year, I had 244. And as of today, I have 274. I did not purchase any, but nor have I done a declutter. I probably should do a single shadow declutter because they just are very underused in my collection. And I think if I could just really curate it down, create some like custom shadows rather than just having all these random assorted singles lying around, I think I'd get more use out of them. So that might be like a little project that I create for myself sometime in the new year. But I did receive a PR package that included 30 single shadows. I can't talk about it as I'm filming right now, but there will be a video coming up on those. I'm very excited about them. I think they are absolutely beautiful. But now that I've had that influx of single shadows, I really do want to take a look at what I have existing in the collection already, see what I can replace, see what I can get part ways with, all of that kind of thing. So that'll be a project for another day. And then we have eyeshadow palettes, and I have to admit that the numbers are stumping me a little bit. So I started the year with 176, halfway through I had 194, and today I have 122. However, when I did my eyeshadow palette declutter a week or two ago, I had like 199 decluttered. I believe it was like 97, so I really should only have like 102 palettes, and somehow I have 122. So I didn't buy 20 palettes in the last 2 weeks. I must have just miscounted somewhere along the way. And who knows? I can't undo that now. So it was probably in the other video, the declutter video, because there were so many palettes. I probably miscounted somewhere along the way. So I apologize for that. But as of today, I triple counted it and like brought out the calculator because I didn't trust my math. There are 122 palettes in this room. You know what? I'm coming down from like in previous years having over 200. So 122 is not, it doesn't make me like clutch my pearls for myself. It's more than I'll use in a lifetime. It's more than anybody ever needs. But I love my eyeshadow palette collection. And now I really love it because I have, gotten rid of the stuff that I don't love. So that declutter was great because it just reminded me of what I have. Now everything is set out on shelves and I can see it very easily. And I'm already like finding myself far more inspired by the makeup that I have than I have been in the last year and a half. So I'm rediscovering that passion and that love for it. And it's so nice to be back in that frame of mind because for, like I said, about 18 months now, it's just been slowly declining to the point where I just haven't really gotten much joy out of it at all. And I'm really, really happy to be back. We still have a few more categories to get through. So eyeliners for liquid and gel combined, I had 25 at the beginning of the year. I had 40 halfway through, and now I have 12 because I just went through. Gel eyeliners, I think I still have one left over. I don't use them, so I don't know why I've been holding on to them for as long as I have. I got rid of all of those. I really pared down through my liquid eyeliners. So if I had like 5 different black ones, what were the pinnacle ones? Those are the ones that I kept and just parted ways with everything else. So ruthless declutter, got it down to 12, and I feel good with that. Pencil eyeliners was another category that had gotten far too bloated for my liking. So at the beginning of the year, I had 34. Halfway through, I had 32, and now I have 26. So 26 is still a very large number. I don't tend to use pencil eyeliners all that much for lining my upper lash line. I do like them in the lower waterline, but having tried to pan an eyeliner throughout 2022 and not succeeding at it, it shows me just how long these products last. And so I don't feel the need to go out and add any more to my collection. 26 will see me through to the grave and beyond. I am good. Mascaras. So I started the year with 16, got it down to 15 by June, and now I'm at 11. And again, this is a category where I can just like fall into the hype of newly released mascaras and get really excited to try them out. And then I have all of these open mascaras and I am like phobic about my eyes. I am terrified of ever getting stabbed in the eye or like injuries of any sort, infection, blindness. Like, I'm just terrified. I feel like everybody should be afraid of being stabbed in the eye. That is a category that I would like to just continue using through my mascaras and just get it down to a reasonable number and then maintain that going forward. Lip pencils. So this is one where I did make a big difference. So I had started off with 28, had 26 in June. I am now down to 16. Likewise with bullet lipsticks, I had 132 at the beginning of the year. I moved that down to 70 in June, and then I recently did another declutter and I've got it down to 50. With liquid lipsticks, I had 95 and then 50 and now 42. And then we had lip gloss / lip oils. I started off the year with 62 of those. I moved that down to 36 in June. And then in my recent declutter, I cut it down by half and now I have 18. The very last category is lip balm. I had 11 and then 10. And as of today, I have 8. So my lip product collection, it's still really big. But having done the recent declutter that I did, now everything has a place. I can see every one of my lip products. And so I am finding that I'm rotating it through, like I'm rotating through it already. There are some shades that I just hadn't even remembered that I had, that going through the process of decluttering, I reminded myself of. And I've been wearing those in the last few days and really just enjoying my collection again. It's like discovering new products because I haven't seen them in so long, or at least haven't used them in so long. So the final number then is to look at the total of my collection. On January 1st of 2022, I had 1,200 items. Yikes. By June, I had 939, and as of today, I have 728 total products in my makeup collection, which means that I have removed 40% of what I started with at the beginning of the year. And that feels great. I never had any goal for what I wanted to move out or bring in, anything like that, but it just feels good. Like I feel so much less oppressed by my own collection and I feel less overwhelmed by it, much less decision fatigue. And again, like I've said throughout this video, I'm just enjoying the fun of it again and rediscovering the joy that it brings me. So overall, very, very happy, very glad that I did this inventory throughout the year, and it is something that I plan to do in 2023 as well. So the other part of this video then is to talk about 2023 and purchases. So like I said earlier, there's the question of should I do a no buy, should I do a low buy, all of that kind of thing. And I did put my mind to both of those scenarios to see if that was something that I thought I wanted to commit to or could foresee myself committing to. And ultimately the answer is no. I know myself well enough that if I say I'm going on a no buy, I am not buying any makeup all year, January 1st is going to come along and I'm just going to stick my middle finger up at myself and buy something. That's just the way it goes. And I don't feel like I need that much restriction on my purchasing. Likewise, with a low buy, I find that I'm kind of an all or nothing sort of person. So I have to have a very clear directive or else I will find loopholes. Frankly, it's what I do as a career is find loopholes, right? So anyways, I know myself too well for that. And I find that sometimes when I watch other people's low buy videos, their rules work perfectly well for them, but there's too many of them for me and way too complicated. So then I decided to take a slightly different approach and really reflect on 2022, my makeup purchasing, the videos that I produced, the videos I enjoyed producing, and sort of the burnout that I experienced. This has been a really difficult year. I could do a whole video on that, but I don't think it's necessary at this point, and I really do feel like I'm emerging from a funk that I've been in for a very long time, and I don't even want to jinx it by looking at it too much or making any sudden movements because it's just such a foreign feeling, but I'm really enjoying it, so we're just not going to go too far down the rabbit hole on that one, but I did find that my priorities changed throughout 2022, and of course I also discovered triathlon in the summer, and that, although it seems fairly simple, swim, bike, run, have a bike, have some running shoes and a swimming suit and away you go, there's a lot of shit that goes in with that and it can get to be a very expensive sort of sport. And so that is continuing. I mean, my race entry fees and then travel to certain races and all this kind of stuff. So I have just different priorities, or I've added a new priority, which has kind of split my attention. And so I really did step down my makeup purchasing throughout 2022 just because I was sort of forced into it. I'm using the same number of dollars now to fund two different passions that I was to fund one. And then I found that I wasn't really missing it. I found that when I was looking at new makeup releases, there was a bit of a shift in my thinking. And rather than thinking like, oh my God, when is it releasing? I got to write it down. I got to put it into my calendar so that I can get it first, so that I can get my video up, and stressing myself out over it for absolutely no reason, I found that if I bookmarked something or if I added it to a loves list and then came back to it a few days later, that like fire inside of me to add it to my cart most of the times was gone. An example of that was the Natasha Denona My Dream palette. I think that's what it was called. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I wanted that palette. It released in September, I believe it was, or the very end of August. It was around the time that I underwent my surgery. And so it was the time when I knew I wasn't going to be working at my actual job and making actual income. And I knew that I was going to be recovering from surgery and therefore not playing with makeup. So it didn't make sense to buy it at the time. And then when I did return to normal life, I took a look at it again and really, really thought about, does it add something to my collection? Is it something that I really want to hold on to? Can I picture myself using this repeatedly over and over again? And at the end of the day, I decided not to buy it. That is the approach that I want to take in 2023, is just really considering my makeup purchases. And I think to assist me with that, I only need one rule, and that rule is no day of launch purchases. I really think that's the only rule that I need in order to relieve myself of the self-imposed pressure to try to buy everything as quickly as possible, to get my review up as quickly as possible. And it also addresses the issue of FOMO, because I do get sucked in by that, and I'm aware of it, but I still get sucked in by it. It doesn't matter. So I really think like do not buy on the day of launch is going to release me from both of those pressures, because I won't get it first, and therefore I won't have that artificial pressure on myself to review it first, meaning I can give it more time and give it more consideration to make my reviews more thorough, even if I'm not the first one to get it up. That's just what it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be quality over quantity. And I'm fine with that going into the new year. As well, because I'm going to have this rule of not buying on the day that it launches, it kind of relieves me of the FOMO and that like anticipation and that like buyer's high. Is that a thing? I don't know. Maybe I just created that. But I think we can all relate to that, where you're just like, yes, I got it. And then you're like, but did I even really want it? I don't know. So I think it's just going to help me establish the distinction between gut reaction and genuine desire. I want to buy the items that I genuinely desire. So that is my plan going into 2023. In terms of the channel, I want to get back into doing new makeup release videos, but with the idea of creating basically a shopping wish list from that. So the most exciting launches coming up, things of that sort, I literally want to just write them down and then revisit them in a week or two and decide from there if there is anything that still has me really on fire about it. And then I plan to do maybe monthly makeup purchase reviews for you, where I let you know exactly what it is that I did buy, but also explain to you like why I chose what I did versus what I opted not to purchase from that master wish list created from the new release videos. Hopefully it all works itself out. I don't want to overcomplicate it at this point. I think there will be some learning curve for how I want to structure it, but that's what I'm thinking. And of course, I will do reviews going into the new year, but it's not going to be my driving focus. I just don't like who I become when it is my driving focus. Perhaps I shouldn't admit that on a YouTube channel, but like, here we are. It just becomes a job. It becomes overwhelming. It becomes unpleasant and unfun. I have stopped and started talking so many times that I don't even know what thought it is I'm trying to finish. So I guess we should just end the video here. But I would love to hear from you in the comments down below whether your makeup purchasing habits have changed at all over 2022. and whether you have any plans for 2023 in terms of no buy, low buy, or other. I'd love to hear from you. I feel like this year, everything has sort of culminated into a head. At least it has for me. I mean, the pandemic and all the pressures that it created, inflation and the increased cost of everything. I mean, freaking hell, I went to the grocery store the other day. There's a watermelon. It's about yay big and it was $15. It better be gold lined for God's sake. Anyways, I digress. Let me know down below anything related to makeup purchasing. I would just love to hear your thoughts on all of that. So, with all of that said, this video was far longer than I intended it to be. And once again, I forgot to talk about my damn makeup at the beginning of the video. So if you're still here, thank you. On my lips, I have one of the new NYX, what is this thing called? Fat Oil Lip Drip. It's a terrible name. Anyways, it's in the shade Follow Back, which every time I read it now, I'm like, I ain't no follow back girl, because I'm a giant nerd. Anyways, on the eyes, I have the shade Anil from Clionadh with some shades from the Tartelette in Bloom, the matte shades just to round it out. And on the inner corner, I have the shade Glow from Clionadh as well. And with that addressed, I think we can go ahead and finish the video here. Thank you again for taking the time to watch. I will see you in my next video. And until then, just be a decent human being and have a wonderful, happy new year. Bye for now.